you're good.
Yeah.
So my question was the significance of the car on the
Yeah.
Respect the Hustle, the book.
Yeah. Trust Your Hustle. Life Forged by Fire. So the brand used to be called Trust Your Hustle, and the book is Trust Your Hustle: A Life Forged by Fire, Part
Yeah.
1. Because I'm gonna write a second book when I get to the back end of my years and I got a whole lot more life left. Because that took me from pretty much 0 to 30. But the car, in the very beginning of my life, I was given away into foster care by my mom. She gave me and my 3 siblings away. And the car back in 1986, when this took place, for the social services, like their stock cars, you want to call it, was a black Crown Victoria, which you see in the front of that
Yes.
kind of cover. So that was really, I don't know if it's an ode to it, but that was just like a visual of what I recall seeing when I would get picked up with a trash bag of my clothes and get put into a new house. That was the social workers' cars, man. So yeah, that. Those are memories that I look back to and go like, that was a not fun vehicle to see.
Well, the reason why I say it is because there's vehicles throughout my life that have like they're almost landmarks or chapters, you know, like
Yeah.
the one that's behind me. I never got that's a 63 Impala SS that's
Yes.
behind me. You see it up on the shelf there.
That's a
It's
cool
a
one, yeah.
model of it, but the real one is, you can see it if I turn my head that way, like you can see it right in
Oh
the
yeah.
middle by the Michael Jackson doll.
I see it. Yeah. It's like a
And
brownish looking color.
yeah, so that one my dad bought me when I was in high school. So I've got
Ah,
that 63. I never got the SS, the Impala one, but that 63 Impala is a 4-door hardtop, and it
mm,
signified how much my dad was dedicated to our family because I already had a 79 Dodge Colt and
yeah.
I wanted that car, and my dad had saved up $1,400 to buy a truck to be able to take care of our family, and he
Yeah.
forewent the truck to buy me a car when I already had one, and we were we didn't have the stuff that most people had.
I get you. My wife would do that. My wife would for sure do things to make sure the kids look good and feel good. Not that I'm against it, but I get that. It's funny because but last 2 years ago, not last Christmas, the Christmas before that, I bought her a '66 Mustang, like a nice blue cherry, like it's a beautiful vehicle. And it's because she did, like, growing up, we saw buddies with it, and she'd always, these over the years, just wanted to buy one, but never would pull the trigger on it. Has the money to buy it, and not like she has no issue. So I'm like, all right. And it was the first surprise of all of our years together ever got by her was that. But it's just kind of cool to be able to give something back. Like, 'cause I know your dad feels, because I could have put that towards a lot of stuff. But I was like, I want to give it to her, and it's her car. Her name's in the title, and touching me, right? So it's like cool little thing that she gets to be able to celebrate.
Now, does her competitive nature, because she's got it too, because she just said she's gonna hit the world record when she does the thing. Does her competitive nature, does it come up against, because you guys both have, I mean, you just
Yeah.
listed your weight, and unless you're really good in shape, you never list your weight. And that's how I know you're the man. Because you said,
Yeah.
are you 6'3"?
I'm 6'1".
Okay, you said 6'1". You said the exact weight that you have. Did you say 237?
I'm 230.
Okay,
I
see,
mean, 237 is, but this morning I was 230.2 or something like that.
okay, see, this is what I'm talking about. When you go specific, like I wouldn't go, I mean, well, yesterday I went specific on my weight, but I
Huh.
I don't want to talk about it. Does
Huh.
when because it's probably not where it should be, Anthony. So
Yeah. Same here,
with
though. I
with
could
you
be
and your
beat
with
up.
you and your wife, when you both have that competitive nature, does that sometimes run into each other?
It has, yeah, but I mean, it's a matter of understanding what, like, so competitive nature isn't a problem if you're on the same team
Mm,
or the same direction, right? They actually did studies where they put teams like against each other, and like it's hard to score points. Okay, now you all work together to score as many as you can, opposite teams, and they dominate, right? Which makes sense. There's no defense, but the reality is now when you're working together, you move. So yes, she is competitive, but we do have to learn how to be the ebb and flow of like, all right, I'm going to push for this or I'm not going to push for this. And we're very clear. My relationship works because I am malleable in the place I need to, and I'm not in the places I don't need to. So what I mean by that is like I'm a person that I can flex to what she needs going on. Like if she needs me to bend here and do this, like I'm fine. Or she wants to press too far, it's cool. But there are certain moments, and I know them now because we've been together since we were, 16 years old. At this point, I'm well aware of when she's encroaching into a space that I need to stop and put a ground to, because if she keeps going, it'll cause a problem for me, and I won't. I'll be angry at her and resentful. But also, she needs to know that there's a man that can give her a backstop. I think
mm.
certain women are type A, if they just can just crowd you and press you down, I think it becomes this thing where they don't have the same attraction to you. There's not the same respect, right? So I'm not. If you see me in those moments, it looks like I'm like an husband. If that makes only saw those moments, right? But what it is, it's just me putting the backstop up and going, "Hey, we've gone pretty far. We're not going farther than this. This is a line here, and we'll stop this. We're gonna, after the conversation with her, and it's like every 6 months, sometimes longer. We go like 6 to 8 months, and it may be like a day of fighting, but it's like she gets it now, and we can move past it smoothly. But now the competitiveness actually is good for us because we're also on the same page when it comes to parenting for the most part. She still approaches it like a mom does, and it's my baby, but she understands when I'm not coddling my son, who I'm trying to prepare to be a man, so
Mm.
she can understand the perspective. And so, like, it allows us to be on the same page and understanding. Because if I was with a person that wasn't an athlete, she wouldn't get it. Like if I was with a woman who didn't understand what my son wants to play football, what it takes to do that, how I coach him, how I try to lead him. If she didn't play sports at all, she'd think I'm like I'd hate my son. She'd think I'm like this, trying to like ruin a child. And it's like, no, he needs that because of what he wants to do requires that. So that helps as well.
How did you learn this? Did you learn this through traditional wisdom, like that you sat down with like Mr. Miyagi and he told you the lessons, had you wax the car? Or did you learn it by banging your head against the wall and making mistakes?
Hey, you bang your head against the wall. That's the nature of it. It's interesting. I don't think wisdom is too far from our grasp. I think accepting the wisdom is far because people's egos won't subside enough to actually receive something. So these are lessons you can learn watching TV. It's all there. You can watch it a show. And people go, oh, it's just TV. No, that's real life. It's where TV got it. They got it from real life. The problem is you want to defend your ego and your position. So now you're going to have an argument with your spouse or you're not going to be a good parent because you got to fight to be in your position. Because psychology shows that people, even in the proof of 5 points of glaring proof you're wrong, will still fight for their position. You could know you're dead wrong. They'll still fight. So knowing that, I just don't fight. If I'm wrong, I go, okay, I'm wrong. Let me receive this. Okay, cool. Ah, all right. That wasn't that great. Hey, my bad. Right. It's the nature of how people last night at the dinner table, we're talking. We always, every night's dinner table, we FaceTime my oldest son who's in college having a conversation. And then my youngest son out of nowhere goes, yeah, I got this test, something going on, like just out of the blue. And he goes, I got a test I got to study for sometime at lunch tomorrow. And I go, something a personal problem. Right. Which is pretty rude because I'm just saying, like, nobody cares. Like, okay, you got to get a test for lunch. I was like, it's unnecessary information you shared. Nobody cares. And then my wife goes, and I go, what are we going to do with this information? She goes, you say stuff all the time that nobody knows about and doesn't care about, but we don't say that to you. And so I looked at him, I go, mom's right. My bad, son. Shouldn't have said, like, I just, my bad. I shouldn't have said that. Apologize. And gives me a nod like he gets it. But like, I didn't have to, I could have easily battled and gone, but really, and nobody cares. I could have kept fighting it, but then I look stupid. He feels like I don't respect him, right? And so it's a dance there. But now he's able to see, okay, dad apologized. He made a mistake. And like he understands the lesson that I learned and he can see it taking place. He feels like there's some respect to him, right? So but this all comes from, yes, bumping my head, paying attention to my life and the pain caused, but also processing and watching other people do dumb stuff. And I go, I'm not going to be that idiot right there.
When did wise Anthony come into play? Was it always wise, or was there angry Anthony, or was there
Oh, yeah, a lot
unwise
of years.
Anthony?
Yeah, angry Anthony was for a lot of years. I mean, I was angry all through football. You kind of have to be. Now I'm joyful, right? But there's a certain level of grit you have to carry because
Yeah.
people smell blood. If you're in the NFL walking around super joyous all the time, you will get eaten alive. You got to know how to
Mm.
switch it on. Like you just have to know how to switch it on. But then also there was, even after the NFL into my early 30s, I wasn't really good at like receiving a thank you or feeling appreciated. I didn't know how to do it because in my head, I was like, yeah, I'd lost football by that time, but also like my own mom didn't love me back in the day, kind of stuff. I just had these weird thoughts in my head. And so, yeah, for a lot of years, dude, I just didn't have that. And then what it was around 2016. I'd already been divorced for 3 years. Life was not going great. I realized that this life I was living sucked. I was in a 500 square foot studio apartment. My kids sleeping on air mattresses next to my twin mattress. Like it was just wild, bro.
Mhm.
And I go, well, this ain't going the way the way I wanted it to. And I realized, I go, of all the things going on in my life, I look at this and I'm pissed because the business isn't doing very well. My marriage had fallen apart. I'm divorced. I'm not a present dad. I have multiple partners. I got women I'm hanging out with, and it doesn't feel grounded and centered. And I realized, like, dude, I don't like this guy. Like, I look in the mirror and go, I don't like the dude looking back. I couldn't respect that guy. And I realized that of all the problems in my life, I was the common denominator. When I really sat with it, I go, all right, either I created the problem or I allowed the problem to persist. But regardless, I'm there in it. Somehow I am in it. And so I went through all the things that were causing problems and I got real honest. And I say real honest, I went seeking the area that I could take back control. But the problem is when you look at an area where you take back control, with the control usually comes a little bit of pain. There's kind of an ego that comes with it. Like, it's just painful because you go, gosh, this humongous issue I dealt with, I was a catalyst to it. I said this, I did this. And so for me, I was in that space of like, all right, I really need to, I need to sit back and take ownership of these things. And it was a lot of hard conversations, a lot of tears and ownership by myself and just going, damn, like, well, I'm here because of me. And so now that I knew what I had done to get me there, it was time to seek out what I had to do to get out of there. And I know for me, like training fitness, because I had a gym at the time, I had degrees in kinesiology. I understood the physical that tied to logical of, if you have gotten out of shape, you've spent a bunch of years eating whatever you want and having, and you get overweight, you have to now recount in the opposite direction through all that to get to a baseline, then get even further to get healthy, to get like really, in shape. It's a journey that's very hard compared to how easy you've had it. So I go, well, shoot, it was kind of, somewhat easy to get here. Just let things just fall apart. It's going to be harder to climb out of the hole. But I owned to that. And I started doing things that were incredibly difficult that I never considered doing, things I never considered, asking help for, all these kind of pieces. And then little by little climbed out of the hole.
What was the hardest to come to terms with? Like I always say when I was a kid, when God started dealing with me, I would play hide and seek, but I'd only hide my head and my whole body would be out. And I'd be like, but if I can't see you, you can't see me. What was that? What was that point for you?
I don't know, man. I think it was realizing, so my marriage fell apart because my wife stepped out on me. So she had an
Mm.
affair. But it was one of those things where,
How'd you
like in
find out?
hindsight,
How'd you find out,
I
Anthony?
was in Hawaii. We were in Hawaii, and I looked over her shoulder and saw a text message between her and this guy, and it was, pretty colorful, we'll say. It's like a heartbreaking one, bro. I took her phone, ran off, read it. Dude, seriously, like broke all of me.
Oh my
Because for me,
gosh.
I'm like this guy that, like, my family was my anchor. I didn't have it as foster kids. This is my family, and it went down sideways. And so, as you can imagine, I mean, livid at her. I hated her. I hated her. Like, very, very clearly. And it took me years to get to a point of understanding a couple things. And this is one that not everybody grasps, because they go, if that happened, Anthony, why are you back married to her? It's usually the question. And like, I've been on some big podcasts and I've had people in the comments go like, I had to stop listening once he said he got back with his ex-wife. And I go, you missed everything that could be valuable to you. You should have continued to listen, because here's the truth.
Mm.
When I look at people who have done things that hurt us, I look at my mom, who gave me away into foster care, my biological father, who I found at 21, who just had left and never thought he'd ever come back or I'd find him, and I found him. I look at people that stole money from me in business. I look at my ex-wife, current wife now, and I go, every one of them, I said, did they do it to intentionally, maliciously hurt me? That was the question I had to ask, because there are some people that try to do some things that are kind of shady. But everybody, like to the majority, they hadn't done something to intentionally hurt Anthony. They did something selfishly to help themselves.
Mhm.
And I was a innocent, unfortunate bystander to it. My mom gave me away because she couldn't figure out how to be a good mom in her head. She figured someone else could do it better. Didn't know what would happen to me, and what happened to me was pretty bad, but she didn't know it was going to happen. My dad had no idea. He thought that if he was around, it was going to be harder because he already had a family and it wouldn't be able to be present. He figured me gone, my mom being in sole control would be good for me. So he was gone. People that stole from me in business, they were trying to find ways to feed themselves and pay for bills they couldn't, take care of. So they figured, easy mark, Aunt's got money, right? It wasn't because they wanted to see me burn. My wife, she didn't step out on me because she was trying to hurt me. She had needs that were unfulfilled. Now, let me preface this with another part of understanding. When I came back from the NFL, I had lost my career. I was in an uncomfortable internal place. I didn't like me. And I tried to build something that was going to be me again. We had twins, brand new twins, and I was there for the birth, and I was back to work. And here's what I was doing. Every day I would go to this gym I was building. I'd be there from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. I'd get home at 10. I'd eat food. I'd go to bed. I'd get back up at 5, and I was gone. This is every day. I was building the equipment, putting the gym together. I was building this all. So she was at home with twin newborn babies, twins, and a 4-year-old, and there was no husband around. I was a mile away, might have been 100,000 miles away. It was no different. I wasn't home. I didn't call. I was building this thing. I was like, I'm taking care of the family. Not only was that going on, She's a person that had a master's degree, and she couldn't go back to work because I wasn't making money at my gym, and I was actually losing money. I'd put 150,000 in, and it was gone. So I'm not financially taking care of bills. She feels the stress of that. She doesn't feel supported and like she can be protected by the man of the house. I'm not even present with the kids. She just needed someone to be there. And so she did what she did to selfishly fulfill a need of hers. And again, I got the impact of it. And so what happened was all these different things. Say, what's the hardest one? The hardest one is to go back and go, dang, I wasn't the decision that she made was the worst decision you could make. But she didn't get to a point in her relationship to have to make a decision by herself. So I had to go back and go, well, I'm part of this. I was part of the problem of getting her to a point of thinking she needed to make a decision. She made a crappy choice, and we get that, but she didn't have to get there by herself, and she didn't get there by herself. When I owned up to that, it gave me a different sense of like, gosh, all these things. Because think about this: when you're in those situations, if you don't take ownership, you think all men are dogs, all women are horrible, right? Because no matter what I do, this could happen again because I had no control over it. So why even try? Because if I do try, I got no control over that. And I realized that was just a good way to have an out, a good cop out to ownership. Because when you take back the control, the power of that, you go, no, I had some control. In a small place, I had a little bit of ability to mitigate the choice even needing to come onto the table. And I got to be a better person to handle that. That was my ownership of a human, of a man. Same thing had to take place in my business. Hey, you know what? The market's not great, but there are people succeeding. Is it because I'm not doing those things? Likely, yes. What do I got to do? So the more I could take small ownership of stuff, I started to see like where I could actually turn my life around and be better for every part. And so that was the thing. It's taking egoless ownership. Most just won't do it ever.
That let's talk about the ego part, because coming out of the NFL, so many guys transition and they go through, it's almost like a death, right? So I've got a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of friends that have
Mhm.
transitioned, and it's almost like a floundering thing. Even people
Oh,
who have been in the league forever and it's, whatever it is, how was that for you emotionally, and how was it a hit to your ego when you literally had a job that, I mean,
different kind of job.
couple hundred, maybe 1,000 people have like at one
Yeah.
time, you know,
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
massive. And then you transition. Talk about the ego and the emotion there.
A lot. You know, so when you wake up one day and can't do a thing you've done forever and it's part of who you are, there's not a definitive like, here's what the next step is. And here's the even worst part about football. Football delivers for you like these amazing moments that you can't make up anywhere else. You also develop these incredible intangibles that work ethic and teamwork. But if you don't know where to place these things, it's like having a bunch of Lego bricks with no base.
Mm.
There's no step. It's like putting them in a cup of water. Like all these things just float to the bottom. You sink. And so the problem was is when I left the game of football, I didn't have any place to put these skills. On top of that, you got to realize in football, every minute of your day is scheduled for the most part. Meaning they know when you got to get up because you got to get to practice at this time for a workout in the morning. You got to lunch or breakfast, whatever it is. Then you have the meetings here and a meeting there, and you have lunch, and then you have a workout, and you have a meeting here, and you have practice, and till the day's done. I don't even have to think about what I'm doing today. I just got to go and do things and work really hard in that. When you leave that, a couple things happen. One, you don't have the moments anymore. Two, you have nowhere to place these intangibles. Three, there's no one running your schedule of life. You lose all sense of direction and sense of worth to the world. And the way I kind of ache in it was we call the things in our life the fruits of our labor, which is pretty fitting, right? The fruit of our labor. And I go, what's the fruit of the labor in life? Oh, well, for me, football was the fruit of my labor. I'd worked real hard. I got football. But we don't comprehend this is that we see ourselves as this piece of fruit, like the football. So when football for me fell off the tree, it can hang for a little bit. Like think about it, the fruit can hang on the ground. Farmer could pick it up, take it to the store, take it to my house, last for a week or two. It goes rotten. So it can hang for a bit, but eventually that piece of fruit feels rotten. It is rotten. That's how we feel when we lose this thing. The marriage falls apart. You leave the military. You leave a professional sport. Maybe you sell your business. The business closes down, right? And this was you. And what happens? We look at this piece of fruit and we feel this way, and then it just you get dark and you get kind of dreary. But then something happened to me 3 years after my divorce. And I got this wake up. And what it was is I realized that I looked around my life that everything I had in life was fruit of the labor, right? The football was also a piece of just next to the marriage, right next to my health, right next to my parenting.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was those were all still attached to the tree. And I realized I'd never been the fruit of football. I'd always been the tree. And the tree could produce more fruit, more abundant fruit, sweeter fruit if I focused on the tree.
Wow.
And so when I was looking at the piece of fruit, everything else died. So yeah, my marriage died, my health died, my parenting died. Those fruits fell off because I wasn't paying attention to the tree. When I left that fruit there and said, I'm not that fruit, I'm this tree, you put it back in the right soil, the right environment, you get the right sun, the right people, you start pruning the branches that don't need to be there, that are weighing you down, right? You start getting to the point of making the fruits that you want to see blossom abundant, and they're sweeter and they're more delicious. So my life now is way sweeter and more abundant than it was with football. I don't wake up with anxiety, which I don't even know if you call it anxiety, it's just tension, because every day I might lose my job. And it's like the foster care world, because you can come to work today and they go, give me your playbook, you don't have a home now. Like, that's how it happens. And so, like, remind me of foster care and just bouncing around in those cars we talked about earlier. And so, like, that world, while it was beautiful to play on Sundays, there's tension, dude. There's aggression, there's grit, there's everyday competition. It's just, you're in a pocket of pain. It's so hard. So people don't understand, those dudes are conditioned. We are conditioned to be in a space that you can't operate and function mentally most of the time. And so to leave that it was difficult to show back up in my life as I was. But I like my life now. I like the peace I have, the joy I have. I make more money now than I did when I played, right? And I get to keep my health, I get to be present with my family. My life is way better now than it was in the NFL.
So talk to me too about like the transitioning, because I think this is one of the hardest things when you have an identity one way, right?
Yep.
So you had an
Mhm.
identity and you're talking about the fruit of the labor,
Yep.
and then you jump into the gym space, right? And so you
Yeah.
start doing that part. And now, I mean, you're one of the most sought after and one of the baddest motivational speakers in the world. And for like, but most people have a challenge, because I just had our men's group. We just got done with it before we started. And one of my friends, his name is
Mhm.
Gary. Big shout out to him. He's probably not watching the podcast anyway. Um, but Gary was like, what is my thing? You know, what's my
Mhm.
platform? What's my thing? And I was like, well, it's going to kind of change as you go along, as long as you're going to be in your play, like who you are. But talk to the people out there about the challenge that
Yeah.
when you went from gym owner, from football player to gym owner, and then gym owner to motivational speaker. I mean,
It's
it's
all
not like
weird.
you can carry the audience over into the other one, right?
Nah, the audience will cover it all. Nobody, as much as people think that I'm successful as a speaker because of football, it's completely false. There are a lot of guys that played football that quite literally couldn't talk themselves out of a Walmart. It's like, they're just not intelligent humans. They're phenomenal at the game of football, but they're not intelligent. That's okay. And just everybody's different walks in life. But what I realized was, for me, I had this life experience beyond the game, because the game was a short part of my life. And the transition was this. It was understanding that everything that I am right now was all just built. And we all have this fear of trying something new, because when you're a kid, your perspective of life is expansive. You can see, 3D. You ever seen like the 3D cameras you can see all around you? It
Uh-huh.
goes from that to like a tight shot. So you can see all the stuff of possibility. Then as you get older, you start getting better and better and better and better and better at something, to where like your framing of what's possible is all right in front of you. It's a square. It's itty bitty, right? And so what happened was, I started realizing, like, we went through things to build that, but that was my identity, is right there. And I go, but there's a vast, huge world out here. And so I started trying to figure out, well, how did I, get to this point? How do I feel better somewhere else? And what I wanted to do was, I wanted to have a similar sense of confidence in something, the way I had it in football. So I had to go back to the drawing board, but I didn't do it intentionally as I'm going to explain it. Like, there wasn't a thought process in the moments of it, but in hindsight, this is what I did. I had this realization that, at the certain point in time, what I'd done was, I kind of wanted to have this big oak tree of football confidence in this plot, right? Build this big tree. So I did that. At 15, I started working out, lifting weights, got better at the game, started making plays. Get a scholarship, you go to college, start my sophomore year. I get some accolades. I play, do great in my, Pac-10 when I'm playing, get a chance to play in the NFL. I'm building this career. I'm doing this thing. People know my name. I got this big oak tree, right? And all of a sudden, the oak tree gets chopped down. Got no tree. And I go, well, I want to climb that tree. You can't. The tree's gone. What do I do? I don't know. I have no tree. And you feel that. You feel that it's like a squirrel with no tree. Like, what do I do? And so the reality was, I had to build another tree. And here's what people, they think they go to the next plot. What they're trying to do is have this big oak tree. So we go somewhere and go, all right, I'm doing my thing. I want success like I had before. I want to feel the same. Where's my business success? Where's my marriage success? Where's my health success? And I go, well, where's it at? I was trying to get that immediate feeling. We don't get the immediate feeling. What it looks like is, you have to replant and regrow the tree. It's a different tree. You have to do the exact same thing. However, you're not coming to this plot of land with no skills or experience. You know how to do it faster and better and make less mistakes. So you can, in fact, grow this tree faster than the first one, but you still have to do the same work. You got to and find you got to till the soil, prepare it, find the seed that you want to do, plant that seed in your heart, grow this thing, nurture it, nourish it, shield it from the storms. Storm blows it over. You got to replant it sometime. It keeps going, and eventually this tree gets to that point where you have this big oak tree. It's the same that I did in the speaking world. I was a football guy, fitness guy. I'm like, what do I have to share with the world from like psychology and philosophical thoughts? I'm just a dude that played football. But over the years, I go, I got to find a way to do it. What do I do? I mean, look at these people, right? They film videos, they read books. It's knowledge. Okay, they apply knowledge. Can they talk? They talk. Let me practice the skill of talking, the ideation of getting thoughts in place, and then communicating those thoughts. And that's what I've just been practicing over and over again. And the intangibles I had in football are aiding me in this world. I know how to push past discomfort. I know how to watch myself and go, you sucked at that. Let's get better. I did it in football film every single day. I know how to take coaching. So I know how to hear somebody's words of what they're trying to say, not how they are saying it. I go, okay, I got that. So the more I could pull that over, the faster I could build this tree. So I have progressed to a pretty good place in my speaking world that in comparison to other people who start out purely because of the intangibles. My story isn't one that's like, it'll change the world, right? But how I share it, the skill behind it, the energy to push it to the world and make sure they get a benefit from it, that's something I got in football for sure. And that's where I had to go reapply it. And so for a lot of folks are trying to go, my tree got cut down. I want a tree right now. And I go, you don't get a tree right now. You get to plant the tree and do the same thing you did the first time, but you get to do it with better skills.
How do you deal with the waiting game though? You know what I'm saying? Like Anthony, there's that
Waiting
part,
game.
you
It's
know,
not
that
though. Here's
go ahead.
I had this conversation earlier, dude. The waiting game is one that people talk about all the time. I want to wait for success, and we acknowledge this, but no one thinks about embracing it emotionally. You have to fall in love with the day and not the destination. We love the destination? We love what's going to look like in the house, and we love the car we're going to drive in the future. We love all the money we love that. It's attached to us, but we don't love the work it takes every day to get there. My brand is called Dark Work for this purpose. It's the work that people, it's unsexy, it's unseen, it's uncelebrated, it's ridiculed, it's misunderstood by people. And what we're for voyeurism right now. I'm gonna do work, but I want you to see all my work. And the problem is the stuff that really develops the character and the skill and the grit to push and operate, no one sees.
Mm.
Nobody saw me in the weight room Saturday mornings by myself. Nobody saw me running with a SpongeBob stopwatch in the offseason preparing for the next football season. Nobody saw me reading the playbook. Nobody saw me in there eating food and not eating food when I wanted to eat it. Nobody saw this. But that's what allowed me to make the team so I could be seen. And so for a lot of folks, they're trying to get to this level of, you're saying the waiting game. It's not a waiting game if you get to get up every single day and love your day. Like I love my day. I love what I have going. I love this morning. I love talking to you. I love getting to serve the people. That dude, the destination is the journey. Every day I'm in the journey, and I've arrived at a journey I absolutely love. And so I get to parent my kids and be present. I get to serve people in the world and speak. Dude, I've already got there. Me now, the work I'm doing is for the now. So there isn't a waiting game. I'll get the pinnacles. I'll get those things, right? I'll show up a different place on cool stages. But the stage, those moments, they're an hour at max, 15 minutes at certain events. You know what I mean? It's boom, done. So if that's the only thing that dude, that's gonna be a horrible life. I'm only happy for 15 minutes. It's so for me, oh yeah, and I get to go talk to 15, and I get to go talk for an hour. Like that's beautiful. That's a cherry on top of the sundae. But I actually thoroughly enjoy my day and my life and my flow. But I had to work myself to that. So now I get to experience this life in a different way than money because I'm not looking at it as a waiting game.
Mm. So you said a word earlier that I wasn't aware of when I was a kid. How old are you, Anthony? You look really young. So
Just turned 40, man.
okay, you are young, man. You
Yeah,
are
I'm a
very
young buck.
young, man.
Yeah,
You are
I
a
like
young
it.
buck. I like it too. I'm gonna say, well, my kids were like, "You're old, Dad. That's why you say the things you do." Like they made up a word yesterday. Your kids ever tell you words that you didn't know what they meant?
Not yet. So the world that I function in, because I'm prevalently like in the public, I'm aware of things when they're aware of them. So I like they're telling me stuff. I'm like, I got the whole story already. Let me break it down for you. So
Now,
I'm
does
still
it
at a
make you
relative.
mad? Does it make you mad though that like I want to know why they're using a word? Like my son said the other day, he was like, "What? You're jitty, Dad," and I was like, "Jitty," and I was like, "What?" And then I realized it was legit, cut in half, and then they added the Y. So I understood this as
Like,
a, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So when he
I
said
get it.
jitty, but they said the other day, my daughter and her friend got in the car and they were like, we wish someone would use feta as a as a word. And I said, well, what would it mean? They were like, I don't know, but I'd like to make it up. And I said, well, imagine if you. They said, I would like to say hella feta. And I said, well, feta's cheese. Cheese is money. Imagine if you said I got hella feta, right? And so they said
Yeah,
we're gonna trick Maddox, who's my younger son, and he wasn't in the car yet, and we're gonna just say it to him over and over again until he gets it. So they used it like three
wow,
times yesterday, and he was like, "What does that even mean?" They were like, "If you were cool, you'd know."
that's
Are there
great. That's
are
how
there
it works, though.
words for you, Anthony, that once you knew the word, it helped you to be able to interact with the culture that you were dealing with or the group that you're speaking to?
No, because there's also words I know and I'll never use. Because the part of me goes, do I want to be engaged in the youth at that level? And to be honest, there's some spaces I do. Like I want to talk to my kids, and I'll use some. I'm talking very minimal slang terms, like if I, but it's always in joking. Like, Dad got that Riz, bro. Like I'll mess around, but you're never gonna hear me say it and like not smiling. Like
Yeah.
did he just say Riz with a full serious face? Oh yeah, that guy's. I'm not gonna be that guy. So I'm aware of the words. I know what they. But I also explain to my kids. I go, one of the most dangerous things in the world is an in touch, well spoken human. Like if
Mm.
I can be in touch and understand what's going on, but also be very comfortable in my ability to speak the way I speak, clear, concise, right? That's a dangerous person. Those people scare people. Not in a sense of like fear, but it's like, I don't know what they're capable of. Like the fact that they're intelligent and they know what's going on, like that's a dicey place to be. And so like I explain to my kids, like you need to learn, like you need to know how to write, like actually write full sentences, and like writing is a phenomenal thought process and skill. You got to use your words proper. My daughter will go to different places with different girls and hang out, and she's a little black girl, and she grows up in my household, so we use proper grammar in the house. Not that I'm saying she can't use slang words because they do all the time. They mess around. We're a family of regular, but there's times she'll come back and she'll have adopted some of the girls in her track teams like vernacular, and I let her know. I said, "Hey, we're not going to use those words. We're not going to speak with that weird kind of slang term. It's not who we are. Now, it's fine for them and then how they function and operate. But I'm telling you right now, you have no clue how that's going to make you look in the public. Because when I get in a phone with somebody and they're my age and they talk the way these girls talk because they haven't changed it, I'm aware this is a person. I don't know it maybe as professional as they should be. It's just you don't get the same grab. No one will express it to you. They won't tell you that they don't like the way you talk. They just will find ways to not interact with you. So I say, Tay, we're not going to function. We're going to use our words. You can know what they are. You can mess around and play with them. But in a professional, like genuine, real setting, we're not going to speak with that. And so I have to kind of anchor it back. But there is a space where I think we're losing that. I don't know, in my opinion, the culture isn't sensationalizing proper grammar as much anymore. The way you speak, it's all these slang words and different things. And I think there's a power to the people who have the ability to actually put words together. That's why we listen to people, orators and speakers. Our professional speakers nowadays suck as speakers, but then also some of the politicians, oh my gosh. I'm watching these people going, I don't understand how you hold the office you do. I don't even know what you just said. You spoke literally like two paragraphs, and I couldn't repeat the concept to somebody else. And I just look at this going, we're to tears, man. It's kind of scary.
Well, the word that I was going back to that you used was anxiety. And when I said that you're at 40 years old, when we were young, I'm grouping me into your youngness.
Okay, let's
Um,
do it.
but when I was in school, anxiety wasn't a word that we used. It
Uh,
wasn't something that we talked about. It wasn't so readily available. So I didn't know that the tightness in my chest when our car would break down and my dad would have to get out in front of all my friends in front of school and I would be so
yeah,
embarrassed or whatever it was. I didn't know that tightness was that.
yeah, I get it.
When did you become aware of like anxiety?
I don't even know if I had. So I don't know if I would. So I use anxiety in a sense of how I felt when I played football on the teams. There's a sense of like this seriousness. It's like this foreboding.
Yeah.
Anxiety, I never stepped into the space where I couldn't function because of it, right? But it exists. I know some people quite literally shut down in the middle of these things going on. So I'm not going to diminish it anyway. It exists. But I also look at it and I go, we didn't have a word because I think we didn't want to give it the power to weaken us. Whereas I think nowadays we give a lot of things words. I heard, what did I hear? Oh my gosh. It was something toxic love or toxic something that had to do with like whenever your parent is parenting you and you don't like it. Toxic stress. That's what it was. You're giving your kid toxic stress when they want to do the thing and you won't let them, and then they feel stressed out because they can't have their phone. I'm dealing with it's like a commercial on the radio, and I go toxic stress. What are we talking about? Like sometimes you're being bad and you can't have that, and so you're stressed out because you shouldn't have it. But I think also we give these labels to things to be able to give a medicine or to give people the ability to feel comfortable accepting that weakness. And I don't like that. That's why, like, people, this is one that's not going to be fun to hear. But there are people that I know that talk about big trauma, big T, little t, and there's trauma. I get trauma. Trauma's used in a sense of like when somebody actually like they're off in war, like there's a trauma unit because that's bad, right? But because somebody didn't love you growing up and show it to you, it's not trauma. That's just your life. And your life has different hardships.
Mm.
So you have to build different muscles. Because back in the day, I mean, I think I might have been Hormozy talked about it. He goes, back in the day, there wasn't a word for that. Regularly, people would lose moms and dads and siblings. That was just life. Life was hard. It's what we experienced. But these people built the world we live in. We have 100-year-old, 200-year-old buildings that are built by strong character people that dealt with this because that was life. They didn't call it trauma back then. Because if they called it trauma back then, we'd have had a situation where we go, oh, they're experiencing, everybody back up. Hold on, let them sit there and breathe in that. And we're going to go ahead and you take all the time you need. And then what happens is the moment passes. They've not been forced to build the muscle for that. So when they face something similar, same situation. And so I go, look, it happened and it sucks that it happened. And I'm not taking away the pain of the experience you're feeling. You are fully entitled to this emotion right now. Do you want to feel this again next time it happens? Everybody to a person will say, no, I don't. Great. If we don't want to, then we're going to have to approach this differently. We have to take some ownership. We have to lean in. We have to build the muscle based on the weight that life has gifted you. It's just like working out. You get this weight, we lift. If you avoid this weight, when you get to the weight room again later, you're not going to be able to lift it again. But if we can get under this, push it, build the muscle for it, you'll never feel it again. And so that's what I think when we look at these words we're using, we're gifting people the ability to remove themselves from the struggle, and they are not pretty much having me forced to build and be able to manage these stressors. And here's what happens when it's a little kid, no big deal, mom's there. Teenage years, mom and dad are still there. You get to 30 years old and you got a wife, or you got a husband, you got kids, and you do this, there's more to lose. You have way more in the line. And if I just kept bother aiding my kids' trauma and then, it's full blown anxiety, and I let this just ride and I keep using these words all the time and letting them lean into that, when they go into the world, I'm going to be a phone call away every day because anything that happens that's hard, I'm the muscle. I got to do it.
Wow.
But I need them to have the strength by forcing them to face these battles with help from me, with courage, with confidence. And then when they overcome these things, they have the muscle now.
When you were a kid and you're going through foster care and you're doing the thing and you don't have when I say, I think that's more of a normal upbringing. I said that to a girl one time I worked with. She was like, well, I feel like I'm a normal person. And I was like, well, you got two parents that love each other and that you've had them the whole life. You're the abnormal one. Everyone in our company
Right.
is normal and you're the abnormal
Yeah.
one based off of that. Did you realize, because as a kid, I didn't realize that things were hard. They just were, right? So
Yeah. Definitely.
when we had a 1-bedroom apartment with 5 people, my parents split up. We slept on the couch for a couple weeks in hiding away from my pop. I wasn't
Yeah.
like, some of my friends were like, wow, was that traumatic to, I didn't know. That's just what life was.
Right.
Is that the way that you dealt with it? And that the way that you thought as you were growing up, or did you recognize it?
You got to realize, for me at 3 years old, the first moments of my life, I was given away. So there wasn't an opposite to juxtapose. I didn't see it. the families I was with, I thought it was normal to get beaten and starved and tortured. Like, it was weird. Like, that was like, oh, it's just a house. It's how we function.
Mhm.
It just, I didn't like it, right? You felt the pain of it, but there wasn't a knowledge of difference. We didn't have social media to see everything else going on. I remember there was one time when I was in one of the houses, like my current home, we were just early on in the years. We were poor, man. We had, it was just a very bad situation. We'll call it. Like, we get to get bags of clothes from Goodwill because we didn't have stuff. We went camping for a month one time because we didn't have a place. That we're camping at Woodward in Lodi in California for a month, right? At the time, it's like, we're camping, bro. Yeah. you know, but we were poor. We had nowhere to live, So it's like these things people don't grasp, but it is. It's just what it is. And you don't look at it in the moments of it like that because I think all humans want.
We lost Anthony just for a second there. He should be back, but it's amazing when we take the time, and it's amazing to me when I get a chance to be able to talk with people. You back there, Anthony?
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. I lost you just for a second. And what I was saying is it's amazing to hear the stories because when you're going through it, people are like, "Oh my gosh, was it so?" And it's like, "No, it just was." Go
Just one.
back to you camped for a month. You guys were camping for a month outside of Lodi,
Yeah,
and it's just what it was.
it's what it was, man. So camping was, it just was fun, right? So what you're experiencing is just a situation that in the time it's beautiful, but you don't realize it's a crappy situation. And I think a lot of folks, they get to the points of having these things happen and they frame it as a negative. And then because it's negative, I have this experience, and then I start functioning a certain way. I think a certain way, I talk a certain way, I'm quiet, I'm tired, I'm angry, and I'm sad, right? And then what happens is we have to, as people, be in alignment. No matter who we are, there's a fight to be in alignment, right? And so if this is where I'm functioning, how I'm functioning, I will fight to be in alignment with this. So I will fight for the limitation. I think Gay Hendricks says, if you fight for limitation, you get to keep it. So this is my experience, and I do this thing, and I say I did it because this took place, right? So a lot of people, they end up in foster care, and then from foster care, they end up in prison. 75% of inmates in American prisons are former foster kids. And a lot of them will say, well, it's because this happened to me in this foster home, and this happened to me. And I go, okay, I get that. Now we understand this took place. And now in the future, in order to remove myself from feeling guilt, I typically will protect myself with doing things that stay in line with that. So what I'll do is go, well, the reason I'm this is this. And I'll continue a lifetime of blaming things on something that took place to be in alignment with the story I've said because of an action I took. So foster care did this. I took this action. And so this is the outcome of it. I'm doing this because it would hurt to go back and go, I could have had a different response. I could have done something differently. Because if I do that, I got to take back the ownership and go, God, I was being a punk. And so that's what I did all the time was I go in, I blamed it on foster care. Then I go, foster care ended a long time ago, man. When I was 14, it was the rest of my life can't be based on something that happened at 14. I got to take some different ownership and go, I shouldn't have done that. Because of this, it shouldn't have been a reason to do bad. Because of this, should have been a reason to do good.
How did you learn how to treat a woman growing up in, you said foster care, and then there was abuse in the place, and
Yeah.
probably not the greatest situation. How would you learn
Mhm.
how to treat a woman?
You watch it on TV, man. Like,
Who'd you
you know what's
watch?
wild?
Who'd you watch?
I you watch like
Cosby?
the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You watch the Family Matters. I watched Cosby. I did
You
actually. I
watch,
never did watch
hold
Cosby.
on. You watch Family Matters?
I did. Yeah,
Family
for a
Matters.
couple
What
of
did you
times.
learn from Family Matters? I learned that,
It's
there's so many
good.
weak dudes on TV though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
now I hate that. That's a whole other conversation we can go into. But you know what it was? The dad was. You said how to treat a woman. I
Yeah.
watched how the dad, the mom. That was the thing. It wasn't like I learned how to be a man by watching Family Matters. That's different. That's more Uncle Phil, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. But if you watch, like, there's conversation about the women complaining about how the men's and they exacerbate it on television. The problem is people mimic it instead of finding out they're supposed to do opposite of it.
Oh,
And so you do understand that I'm seeing this, and even shows saying it's bad, right? So okay, I'm not going to do that. And then what you start realizing I on is what feels right typically is wrong. What feels difficult typically is right. Meaning the thing that feels easy to do, it's usually the wrong thing, man. Like, because it's just easy to do. Like cheat on your spouse, like it's easy to do. Okay, let's just flow into that. I don't got to do it. Just let's go that right. The hard thing is to go, hey, I'm unhappy in this relationship. I really want to get out of it. I'm considering sleeping with somebody else. Like that's a hard thing about the thought of that's like what you would say that it's hard. Don't do that. So what happens is in all aspects of life, like if is it right? The hard thing to do is to go and cook a healthy meal. The easy thing is, oh, there's top ramen in there. Let's get some water in a pot. It'll be done like that, you know? So the things that are usually hard to do are usually better for us. But people are so man, we are embellishing weakness so much so that it's making a very weak society. And it's in fact making effort and energy and strong humans, we're getting ostracized. You get demonized because of because you want there was dude, think about Adele. Remember Adele? She was fat and then she got skinny. She was ruined by her fans, a lot of them because she was fat shaming. Her desire to get in shape, to lose weight, she was seen as a fat shamer because she wasn't happy in her skin. It wasn't about Adele. It was about the mirror she held up to her fans. That for this whole time, they could be okay and being fat and unhealthy. And it's like, no, you can't. And I grew up in a family of obese people. It's not something where like I could sit there and go, hey, these individuals, they were fully happy in their weight. There was always household conversations about it and always things we couldn't say and couldn't do. So while they didn't like not love each other, there was a sense of discourse there. But it was kind of the thing where like there was an acceptance to be in that space in the household. I got that. As I've gotten older, even my sisters have gotten in great shape because I understand like now I want to love myself. I want to have a different sense of how I feel powerful in my body and my skin. But it's not the societal norm, which is no, it's okay. Be fat, be protected in that sense of being fat. We're all going to celebrate you for being this thing. It's just a different space. And so a lot of the things we're leading into is like we're letting people accept and appropriate, we'll call it the weakness of society. And I think you extrapolate it out, it's a bad thing. Because then you go to the part you're talking to now. Well, a moment ago you said, I've talked to my wife very recently about these. Every TV show that comes out nowadays, and believe me, I got a strong wife. I want my daughter to be a strong woman. But there has been a complete diminishing of the man in all television, in all shows. The strong man, right? The one who protects, the one who, if something goes wrong, we call. Even now, we call the police, we call the firefighters, we call the paramedics, which are also women too. But we call these people, but like all TV shows, they're like, let's make the Equalizer, who was a man and was, Denzel. Let's make it Queen Latifah, right? Let's change. Like, if there's an adventure going on, we go from like, was it John Nicolas Cage was like the treasure hunter in all the National Treasure movies. The TV show is a girl, and it's like we've tried to take all these strong, powerful characters like the Indiana Jones, we take them off the map. Let's put these powerful, unique, creative women on there and make the men dopes. Let's make the man dopey like, Phil Dunphy on Modern Family. That's who the common man is. And while they're fun to watch and they're good stories and good shows, there's less and less of them. And it's making it to where the boys who are like the young men, think about this. We were 15, 16, there was toughness, right? Even before it's toughness, those guys are going out to war and they're like forging and modifying their birth certificates to go to war, to fight for their freedom and their beliefs. Nowadays, if you ask the average American kid what they want to do, they want to go be a TikTok star. They grow their hair out. They look like females. They do like weird little, like cute like things. And it's kind of, you look at it, it's super cringy. And I go, this is who's supposed to protect our society in 10 years. Because we're not going to be doing this forever. When these kids turn 20, 22, 30, they're running the show, man. They're not strong. They believe that masculinity is toxic. And most of the women that they've seen are the ones that are leading the charge. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But when you have weak men and you have like strong women, the balance is off because now you start also seeing, this is my brain on drugs, here we go.
Uh-huh.
You start also diminishing in the household in this. And what happens is you start looking at the far stretches of this and you start people aren't getting married. They're not having kids. This becomes an issue for literally the survival of humanity. They're like Japan and Korea right now are in places where if you extrapolate out 100 years, they're going to go out of, they're going to be extinct as a race. There's not going to be Korean people if it goes at this pace right now. The numbers are exponentially crazy in the wrong direction. And a lot of it's tied to like what we just allow to happen. We get robots to cover the sexual needs, and we just find Tinder and Bumble, and you get it for a night and you move on. It's like, where was the developing of a relationship, and where's the hardship? Who's in a fight? Like, it's just the world's doing some different things. Now, here's also the other part of this. The world that we're entering, I don't know, but I do know it's not the world we came from. So all these things I'm talking to, it could be definitively where something I don't see and we don't see is going to be beautifully perfect for the future in ways that we can't comprehend. And maybe the kid molding our world to something that could be better. I can't see that, but I'm not going to be there. So it's okay. So you're going to have this guy talking about things from an old world of my perspective, but I'm not thinking of all things in the future.
How did you not become the abuser?
Oh man, I didn't like how it felt happen to me, so I didn't do it to other people. Yeah, the thought of that idea of like, there's things that I wouldn't wish on worst enemies, dude, that I just don't do. And literally, there's things that have happened to me that I can't imagine subjecting onto another person. So yeah, I didn't have that. I didn't have that retribution muscle.
Mhm.
Like this happened to you. I didn't have that, and I don't know why I didn't have it. I think God's a big piece of it. There's a part of
Yeah.
my anchored soul that is tied to faith heavily.
Yeah.
So I do know a place that I am not supposed to go. I put a lot of grace and a lot of energy into the fact that when you wrong me, two things. One, you have now just diminished your ability to have a great human in your life. Not because I'm amazing and the best in the world, but I'm a great human. I operate in a way to be so. I do things clean, clear, honest, integrous. I'm that guy. And I live that way so my kids know that someone could do that. I'm an example of it. The second part is I'm going to let God take care of you. And I trust that he does. I may not, I likely won't see it to be quite honest, but you'll get yours. So you want to do some dirt and some crazy? Hey, cool. I will literally part ways and just and let things unfold because sometimes the best revenge for somebody is for them to continue on the path of their life unabated.
Mm. Was there questions when you went through what you did? Like you're growing up and, the 3 years old, you go into foster care. There is abuses. You're going on camping trips. Um,
Yeah.
this relationship with God, was there question at all? Or were you just like, oh no, you're God. Okay, cool. You got it.
We didn't have God in our life. We were Christians on Easter and Christmas when I was growing up. That was how I worked up. It wasn't until I was and I came back from a college recruiting trip that some guy in a burgundy van that looked like Jesus, like I was like a block from my house. He goes, "Do you mind if I pray and we accept Christ into your life?" I go, "Let's do it." And so I did it, and then that's where he entered in. So right
How
before I
old were
took
you?
off to the
How
world,
old were you?
I was probably 18 years old.
I mean,
That I
was it
really,
was
really
it
like.
was it at that point that you just said, "Okay, I'm cool"? Because there was a lot of questions from me at times.
You know what it
I
was?
was
Oh, go ahead, go ahead. I want to hear your
no, I
story.
mean, I was just there was times where I was just bonehead. I was like, well, I remember in 11th grade, God was like really dealing with me, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm good, but I'm not going to recognize what you say about women because I like them a lot right now.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
you
I get it.
did you kind of go back and forth at all, or did you just jump right in like you do with everything?
No, I kind of at the time jumped in. It was the time for me to jump in. I felt like I felt like a little bit floaty, like I wasn't anchored down in the way because we had a whole conversation. It was a ride back from the airport of all things from this trip, and it was a good 45-minute drive of just having a conversation. And in his conversation, opened my eyes to like what I was about to step into. I didn't have an anchor. I was like, I'm about to go to college. Like, you're gonna go to college and you have no base around. It's like you're gonna get into some crazy things, man. And I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah, do you want to be a good man? Like, yeah, I want to be a good man. He goes, good men have a compass. So these little things start kind of and I go, yeah, this is if I take apart the part of me that goes, it's gonna be hard and go, is it right? If it was right, I want to do it. So that was kind of the direction for me. But I'd already been kind of introduced to it over my years. I just hadn't actually stepped fully into it. This was the moment I stepped into it.
Was there anything as a public speaker, you're constantly using your stories, right? You're using your stories, you're using it to be able to relate, you're living a life, and then if you're present, you get a chance. And that's why I believe you're such a great speaker, is because you can actually relate. So you're utilizing anecdotal stories, things like that. Is there
Mhm.
any things that happen to you that you're like, that one's off limits and I'm not going to say it?
Nah, not at this point in my life. I realized years ago that when you try to please everybody, you please nobody. There's this thought I have that like if you sit in the fence between two sides, it hurts your butt, and nobody wants to sit there, right? So that's the first part of it. Secondly, I realized that I'm gonna say things, and first, not everybody loved Jesus, so that's the acceptance piece. Like, all right, let's, people killed him. So the way I look at it is, if somebody doesn't know you enough because you're transparent enough to hate you, they'll never know you enough to love you. So for me, I've got to get to a point of going, all right, I'm going to share my heart, my thoughts. If you hear these things and you don't like them, beautiful. We know who's not supposed to listen. But if you hear them and go, this is my guy, I've at least made myself like a light you can see.
What's the dark work that you're doing right now that you haven't told anyone about, or does that diminish the fact that it's dark work?
No, I mean, the thing is, you can do dark work. You do it in pockets, right? You don't like, I'm not going to disappear for a month. Like, you could do that. That's not the way I think you do it.
Yeah.
I think you have like dark work windows, like windows of time where it's an hour, 2 hours, where you're locked away. Right now, my dark work is it's a trifecta of balance, which is not, it's a harmony. On one hand, I have like a home, a household. I got guys in the back right now building a building. So I'm managing a whole home project, like a $300,000 home project. And so there's a lot that goes into that because it's me. On the other side, I also have a speaking coaching business. So I speak and I travel and I do all my stuff in the world. So I'm out on stage and doing my thing. I also have an educational company, which is teaching people how to build a business like my own. They're all operating at the same time. While I still have a marriage, I still have parenting, I have to be a great father. I'm still traveling. Like, these are all things that are part of it. My dark work is making sure I come to everything with joy because it has its place where it's supposed to be. Things don't overlap. I have a beautiful harmony. I don't say balance because I think balance means that everything is the same, and it doesn't. But the harmony, it means like, hey, today I'm doing this, and then tomorrow I'm doing that. And like, my wife wants me to hang out. Like, I'm gonna carve things out. I'll move things around so I can be with her where she wants to. We were at a wedding this last weekend with a good college friend of ours. But like, a lot of the time was my wife in the wedding, so I'm just like a wallflower. I'm just hanging out, I'm just in the background. But I'm not going to not go because I'm not in the wedding, or like, maybe slow. So I go and I make it joyful for her, while at the same time, emails are piling up because I got stuff I'm in the middle of. But my thing is, my dark work is the things that are difficult for me based on a life I created. I don't want to celebrate the moments I'm doing it. I don't need someone to go, great job getting through 20 emails. I don't need that. I just need to do my stuff. And then what happens is, you see me. And when you see me, I have joy, I have skill, I have passion because of what I've done in the dark.
Mm. You said that a while back, you said that you and your wife have kind of different parenting styles. Where did they
Yeah.
clash? And I'll give you an example. My
Yeah.
wife and I love her to death. She's incredible.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the old school gene. She allows our nieces and nephews to call her by her first name.
Interesting.
I don't let that happen.
I get it. Yeah.
I'm like my
I mean,
pop, God rest his soul, he's up in heaven with Jesus. My pop, I believe, would ascend down. It wouldn't be slow either. It wouldn't be like a Jesus ascension, like, it would be
Yeah.
like the Super Friends, like, the
Yeah.
Justice League flying in, and then Homie
Yeah.
the Clown with the sock and being like, pop.
Yeah, I get you. I remember back in the day.
So what's the juxtapose in you guys' parenting styles?
Our parenting styles it's less. So she has a master's degree in special education, so she understands what people learn in psychology of stuff. The problem is, it's not practiced, right? She has it in a sense of like, it's good in the book, but application of it is a little bit different. And so our clashing comes with the way that I approach like my parenting. That's the biggest issue. And it's not to say that she doesn't get what we're looking to do, but for me, it's like we're not always on the same page with the actions of it. And here's what I mean. My eldest son, easy. My daughter, easy. Our youngest, our son, he's the youngest by an hour. He's the guy he's a battle, man. And the way that she looks at it is, oh, my baby. She sees him as her, 2-year-old. He's 9, he'll figure it out. He's 10, he'll figure it out. It's 11, he'll figure it out. He's now about to be 15. He ain't figured it out. And so now I explained to her, in 3 years, he turns 18. I told you 10 years ago that he's kind of a wild one. I told you 5 years ago, if you extrapolate this out, he's not going to change if we just keep doing what we're doing. We're like, if we put it at 18, this kid at 10 and 18, he is not functioning like this. The simple baseline traits, he's going to be fine. We're now at 15, 3 years away. And she finally is like, all right, I need you to take over a little bit. Because here's the reality. Moms will always see the kid as the baby. Dads see him at 30, see my daughter at 30. And I'm not saying that I see him, a 30 old person. I'm saying I see him living their life. And I see him, if I look from now up to there, do they have the traits they need to when they're 30? They don't have to be in my household calling me for money, can't keep a job, can't keep the relationship, like they're not a good parent. Those are things that I'm dealing with. I have to do now, so they're not an issue at 30. And so dads see it differently. And I think all moms and dads see it where like it's a toddler. So dad goes, hey, our mom will go, hey, I love you. I see it's my baby. Dad goes, hey, you're my baby. I love you. Now I want you to turn around and go start doing this because that world's going to be coming towards you. I need you to be prepared for it. I don't think moms look at preparation as much. Dads look at, I love you. And my love shows up as I want you to be at 20, 25, 30, anchored, strong, confident, because that's the best gift I can give you. I can love you all your life. But if I just give you love all your life, you won't be prepared for life.
How is it that a person, when they do dark work, how do you walk that beam of them not being attached then to the fruit of their labor?
Well, the thing is when you're doing work, you're not doing it haphazardly. So a lot of us, we just kind of start doing things because Bob said to do it or Kelly showed me this thing, right? I'm real big on you got to figure out what you want, set your own scale, and then design your dark. I mean that, like design your dark work. Because if you design your work intentionally in the right way, you're designing a set of like stuff you do in a day that leads you to an identity you've already pre-planned. So you're not just randomly showing up and becoming somebody, which is what most of us do. We just go, well, my boss, Bob, does this. I'm going to start doing this. And you start doing it for a couple of years. You realize, oh, wait, Bob's out of shape. He's divorced. His kids don't like to hang out with him. It's funny that my life looks like that now too. And so what happens, you borrow these habits and you're not looking at the person, the identity of what you want to become. So I tell people when it comes to my work, it's actually an identity. Who you are, we're not thinking about who you are. And I don't believe you can attain or sustain a life or goals above your current identity.
Mm.
So if you want something, you have to identify as the person that does the things to have that or sustain that. A lot of us don't think that far ahead. We just go, I'm going to start getting up early. Why? I'm going to do a morning routine and read a book. Why? I'm going to start going for a walk. Why? I'm going to start doing this thing. Why? Because I want to get what success. Okay, what does success look like? This. Okay, do you want to be the person that has that? Because here's the person that has that and they're fat, broken, out of shape. Ooh, yeah. Okay, so let's not do that one. Let's look at someone that you actually admire. Okay, look, this person over here has a great business. They got nice cars. Cool. Do you like all their life? Well, I don't like that they're never with their family. I don't like that they are only focused. I don't like that. Okay, cool. What part do you like? I like the part of a successful business. All right, great. Get rid of the rest. What do they do that's different? Well, they do have this. They get up and read this book. They apply this. They watch this. They talk about this thing. I see them working out at this point in time. Cool. If you like that part of their life, let's see how we can fit it in while still keeping in mind what you enjoy, separate from what they enjoy. Of like, so you start looking at certain things and developing a dark work design of your life that is not what you just grabbed off the internet. Now what happens when I'm working towards something, I'm working towards becoming the kind of person that does that thing. If I can become that kind of person, I'll have those things.
Where do you find, like, you're an incredibly focused individual. Like, it's unbelievable. And I've read about it. I've watched it, but now getting to interact with it, it's amazing. Cause when you scratch the surface of Anthony, it's actually better than what you see. And that's generally not common. When you are as incredibly disciplined as you are, when do you get to let loose and be
every day? 45.
At what?
Every day, 2:45. Here's the other part of this. There is beautiful freedom in structure. Beautiful freedom. Structure is necessary to create things, but you don't have to be structured every moment of the day. And in fact, when you have the right structure and the right plan, when you're off, you're more off than anybody else. See, most people go, I want free time. I'm going to get up. You do that. You take the free time, but because the rest of your life isn't structured, it weighs on your head and your heart throughout the rest of your day. It's why you bring work home. It's why you're always talking about work, and your wife, and you can't have just time to be, because you don't know what's supposed to be there. When I structure my life, I go, what belongs in my schedule and what doesn't? If it doesn't, I either delete it or it gets pushed off a few months. What is here, I literally lay out, I'm looking at a color-coded calendar right here that goes up to 4, if not usually 5 weeks out from this moment in time. I can share my screen right now and show it to you. It goes out till, at the moment, April 12th, Friday, April 12th. That's all scheduled till. I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it, but at 2:45 every day, nothing. Why is that? Because the work I do gets done in those windows of time so that at 2:45, I can do nothing. I'm watching like 6 TV shows right now, bro. I work out with my wife. I spend like 3 hours a day training. I hang out with my kids. Like, I'm very, very, when it turns off, I'm the most off. I don't even think about checking my computer or my phone. My laptop won't even sometimes leave my office. But when I'm here, oh, I'm here. I'm with you.
Wow.
I'm locked. I'm loaded. And so the structure allows me to have the freedom when it's time to have free time.
I've never heard it that way. That's it's amazing. I'm feeling a lot of judgment coming towards me though. That's the thing. That's the tough thing, Anthony. I'm just kidding with you. So how does a person then, once they, they have an identity shift, they start doing the dark work, they do those kind of things. There's a lot of times where the rituals become a religion for them and they start worshiping that part. How do you stay away from that part where you seem to, at 245, that freedom is, that's earth shattering, man.
Yeah, well, it's guys, I've lived it this way for a lot of years. It took a lot of structuring and scheduling and understanding how to be able to. There's a lot that goes into that. It's not as simple as like I'm done. Like there's a lot that goes in from 6 a.m. to 2:45 to allow 2:45 to be what it is. And a lot of it comes from me setting my own scale. So I'm not living in a world where I'm borrowing the world scale, going this is what the world said I should be doing. I'm going to do this. So to be quite honest, like I don't want to be on every stage. I don't want to be in front of everybody all day long. I don't want to be a social media mogul. I don't want to do that. I want to have a wife who loves me, kids who know their father, be present here and enjoy my peaceful life while when I'm not at home, out in the world, delivering at world-class level. And that allows me to have a decent like sense of where I belong. But I do not have the world scale. And so that gives me the peace of mind to go like, all right, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm not worried about what you want me to do. And then I get to live. And then when I do accomplish things, I don't feel like they're half empty. Because that's the problem with a lot of folks is they work real hard, they structure things to accomplish something, and they go and present it to the world, and the world goes, yeah, but you could have done this. And they go, oh, you're right. And for me, it's only because you're borrowing the world's scale because you care what the world thinks. Because for me, I'll do stuff and the world goes, you could have done this. I go, that's cool. I don't really care. I'm happy still. I got this stuff. I'm glad you think that. I'm doing this, bro. I'm in what I call season of dad. Like I literally am in a season where I want to be present and be a father. I do want to do what I do and travel the West. I do about 24 speeches per year, maybe 30, but the rest got to be local to me. And so with that, I'm in a space where I can be out and be back, but I'm here. And so a lot of folks they're like, but you could be on every stage. I could be on the stage every single week, if not every day, if I really want to push it out there. But then that's not conducive to the life that I want to experience. And so because I can and I don't, some people would go, you're wasting potential. You're not impacting. You're not da 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 da. Beautiful. But at the end of the day, if I'm doing that and I'm draining myself and I'm not present with my family, the fuel that I need to do what I do 24 times will be diminished massively. I'll be doing it 50 times at half tilt, or I could do 24 at full.
Wow. Uh, Generally, I'm not ever speechless on these things, but I mean, it's incredible to hear that perspective. Your whole life has been a series of, and hear the whole thing before you judge me on it. Your whole life has been a series of crazy. It's crazy to think that a foster kid could play at a high level in high school. It's crazy to think a foster kid who played at a high level in high school could go to a Pac-12 school. It's crazy that that kid in college could go to the NFL. It's crazy that that person would transition into being a personal trainer or in the fitness business and it would work out. It's crazy to think that you would become one of the top motivational speakers in the world. What's the next crazy for you?
A brand that you don't know is me. There's the Anthony Trucks is a brand.
Mm-hmm.
He's himself, and I speak.
Got it.
But the Dark Work brand is a brand that is built sans me. In fact, we have a 73-page document that was built in a way that it can be an interchangeable story, but it's based on the concept and it's process driven because I want people to do the work, not just to be enamored by the idea of it. And so what I realized was if you start looking at the bigger brands in a world, you don't even realize that there's a human behind the scenes. You think of someone like Wells Fargo, Chase Banks. You think of like Dolce & Gabbana and Gucci. You just see a brand, but you don't realize that's a person's name. And so what it is I look at it and go, well, if I base it on whether or not you like me, think about how many people do you know that you could look at and go, that's a family member. That's a Disney family member. Do you know any?
No.
And not a single, right? Because the brand went beyond the humans because of this. If a person's behind the scenes, I am gauging if I'm going to interact with the brand off whether or not I like the person. And if the concept is locked to Anthony, I'll diminish the ability to have an impact in the world with it. So what I have to do is build a brand from me that goes beyond me. So that at some point in time, someone interacts with a brand in 10 or 15 years from now, and they don't know that Anthony Trucks created it. They don't know that I'm a guy, because that is the best way to live beyond. Because if
Mm.
not, when I stop speaking or if I stop doing my thing, the brand dies. And I believe that this message has been a gift from God and a gift from my life to give to more people in the world. So whether or not you believe in my beliefs or not, it's going to be irrelevant if you believe in the concept of it. But if I am the forefront, you will gauge whether or not you like me in terms of whether you'll interact with the brand and get the benefit from it. So the next thing is going to be something that, in fact, isn't a thing for me.
You talked about not taking on the world scales, right? But working in the type of industry that you're in, it teeters on the fact that people don't
Yeah.
only listen to you, that they actually apply what you're talking about. How do you stay from getting frustrated when you know that if they did it, if they did the dark work, if they understood their identity, this
Mhm.
stuff would work every single time? You know that,
Yeah.
and I know that, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Now, obviously, I'm not practicing it because I'm not looking as good and as handsome as Anthony is right now. Although, you know that if they did it, it would work. How do you reconcile? Because
Mhm.
there's DNA in you too. When I say DNA, there's muscles that were built in you from early on, going through
Mhm.
what you went through to be able to play at a high
Can
level, you know, to be able to do those kind of things. And then you're able to apply these things. You have the ability to be able to take yourself out of it, you know, step
Yeah.
in, push through all these things. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people without those ingredients. How do you stay from not getting frustrated when you're giving this information and people aren't actually applying it?
Yeah. Well, if you want to make somebody stronger who's weak, what do? You give them weight, give them the thing they need to develop the muscle. So you're right. I have these muscles from these situations, but you don't have to go what I went through to gain muscles. So what we're doing is a dark work experience, which I call it an experience because it is the only thing that wires us for a better identity. Neurologically, psychologically, is an experience of something. What I do is I carve out all the stuff. First, what I do is I make sure that we are clear on what your desire is. We cannot create desire. This great guy's Eugene Schwartz breakthrough, a great book, and breaks down the first chapter. You can't create desire for folks. They have a desire. They have beautiful. How can I attach what I do to help make your desire come faster? I don't like to think about it making it easier, but come faster. And so what happens is I go in and we help you figure out essentially what is the thing you desire. Now it's not a matter of what I want or want for you, what muscles I have. You have something that's going to be a carrot. If that carrot's going to be one you chase, you'll develop the muscles if you have some kind of plan to go down. Because the other part of it is, it's like saying, I desire that thing on the other side of the river, but I'm looking at this river and it's rushing by fast as can be. I'm not getting in there. I'm going to die because I don't know how to cross this bridge to get to that bank to get what I desire. What I do is I grab your shoulders and turn you and go, here's a bridge. You got to walk the bridge, but here's a bridge. Sometimes you got to build the damn bridge too, right? But the idea is there's a way to get over to that side. And so what I'm doing is going, it's not going to be easier, but it's going to be faster than going up and around and crazy. We're just going to build this bridge and go across this bridge here. And so essentially with what we're doing is we're carving out the stuff that's everything, right? I go, what are of 10 areas, what are 2 or 3 that are really incredibly important for you right now? Let's create the structure in the container to get you clear on what it is and trickle it back to what does your daily dark work look like? We'll design your dark. And then your job's to go very, very, very small in a big way. Most people try to develop these things. That's how they fall apart. My thing is I want to create the smallest thing possible that you do in the biggest way possible so it becomes part of your identity to do it.
Mm.
You don't question it. In fact, you won't even go to bed till it gets done because it's part of who you are now. Now it's part of you. You've built the muscle. Now, guess what you can do with one muscle? Apply it somewhere else. The muscle I have for doing bicep curls, it'll help me do rows and chin-ups. The muscle's built. I can use it somewhere else to build more stuff. We build the little muscles so eventually the whole system is strong and it applies everywhere you need it to.
Wow. How do you not become the unhappy or the frustrated guru?
Oh man, because at the end of the day, I separate myself from the success of others being a mark of my ability. Now there are parts where I go, if I make a promise to you, I'm going to lay out very clearly in the front of it what I expect of you and
Mm.
what you can expect of me. And so it's not like I'm going in blind. I'm not saying I'm gonna promise you the world. I go, hey, I can give you these things. I can help you get clear, but it's going to be based on you. I don't know who you are, where you come from, how much money you have. You could be a vampire. I don't know you, but the reality is there's a part of who you are that when it functions at a certain level, we're gonna get this stuff made. But as we go through it, I'm not going to feel bad if you aren't able to get to a point where you desire it more than I desire it. Because if you desire something more than somebody else does for themselves, you cause resentment and damage. So I can't want it more for you than you want it for you. So if we get to this thing where you want it more, I can aid you. I'm not going to drag you. I will help you. I will guide your hand, but I'm not going to drag your body along the ground. And so for me, yeah, there's a lot of people that join programs that I have with all the promise in the world and don't get it done. I don't feel bad, not because I didn't serve, because I go above and beyond. But at a certain point in time, if I have to give all my energy to someone that won't give the energy, we are both going to fail.
Anthony, I started the podcast because of my two kids, Maddox and McKenna. So Maddox is 12. He's a cartoon character. And McKenna is 15. So Maddox is the sports guy. And McKenna is the theater side. So she sings, dances, does all stuff.
Yeah.
The reason why I started for them is because I didn't want them to worship idols in life. I wanted them to be inspired by icons. And what I consider an icon is a person who does what they say, who is making a positive impact on people. And I that's why I consider you an icon, not because you're one of the best speakers in the world, not because of the dark work brand that's going to be amazing, not because of the books, but just because of the person that you are. And so what advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both their names, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Maddox and McKenna, my advice is simple. Listen to your dad, even in the times you don't want to do it. They see things. Parents, we know a world that is beyond what you know, and all we want you to do is be great in that world. That's it. And so it may not feel fun right now, but I'll tell you this. If you enjoy the life that you have, the trips you get to take, the food you get to eat, the house you live in, if you don't listen to your dad, that is not going to be how your life will be when you're older. It'll be worse. We just want you to have a life as good or better than ours. It won't be fun, but years later, you'll thank us for it.
I have the challenge, Anthony, of oversimplifying things. It's probably because my relationship with my pops. He told me since I was a kid that there was one business in the world and one business only, and that was the people business. And if you took the people out of the business, you had no business at all. And if you took and you built the people, then the people would build the business, and it was as simple as that. And he navigated through all different industries, from NASA to power plant construction to, handyman, odd jobs, working on your car. And I watched those simple, tiny principles hit on every level. And it just was that simple. If you had to break down your thought process, your process into a couple simple things, what would that be?
Yeah. We got to hop off in a second. I just realized what time it is, but this is actually good as a conclusion. I would say what I have to do is first, I have to, there's a statement I love, and it says, it's hard to see the label when you're inside the jar. I think Tim Murphy, a guy named, said something. And I realized that I need to ask other people to see what my label is. I got to accept that this is something I don't see, which could be a hindrance that I'm not aware of. So I first want to figure out what's the label I'm not seeing. Then two, I need to bury my ego, so my ego will allow me to give myself permission to improve upon that. So here's what I hear. I see it. God, okay. Ego, go away. Do I need to work on it? Yep, let's work on it. And then what I do is I commit to doing something really, really small for a long period of time. There's so many different things it could be, but that's the solution to all these things. It's go ahead and have somebody show me. Can I accept that I got to work on it? Can I do something small to change it? And you do that, and it extrapolates massively into a whole bunch of different stuff you can't even see right now.
Anthony, I know you have to run. I want to thank you so much. And I want to tell you that you're officially off the hot seat.
Thank you.